continue to absorb this verdict, turn to veteran prosecutor and trial attorney Paul Henderson, who I believe is with us now. And Paul, you're a former prosecutor, but many legal analysts of all stripes and all political persuasions regarded this case to be the weakest of the 4 criminal cases pending against Donald Trump. It was the first to be filed and the first to be tried. Now we have this guilty verdict. But it was even referred to as at a time as a zombie case because other prosecutors had looked at these same set of facts and declined to prosecute. Alvin Bragg, the DA here in Manhattan, came in and said, I will prosecute it. Are you surprised not only at the verdict, but how quickly the jury was able to reach a verdict given the complexity of it?
In a word, no. I will say this was a novel approach in terms of how they put this case together in terms of finding a misdemeanor, but then elevating that misdemeanor into an interpretation that spoke directly to fraudulent association of documents with the campaign that he was running. And even all of the challenges I think you were talking about before, where we had a lot of conversation about what the actual motivation was, and is it improper motivation? And there's challenges to the motivation. Was it political? Was it something that should have been pursued? But I will say what stands out to me is that we went through a fair and transparent process with our criminal justice system. It's not lost on me as I look at this verdict that has come out now. You know, I'm reminded of when I was sitting here with you here at the network looking at the Trayvon Martin case with a very different outcome. It's not lost on me the race disparate implications of verdicts like this. And what really stands out is separate from the motivations and the antagonistic challenges that came up about the case are the actual and real consequences from the verdict. You don't get to skip around any of that. You know, I know Donald Trump is challenging all of this right now, and he's saying that the real verdict comes out in November with the election, but there are real consequences just from that verdict. He cannot join the military, not that he would or could. He cannot get a federal job. I think one of the things that stands out to me is that he can't vote in some states now because of this conviction. He can't own a gun in states like Virginia, Tennessee, Iowa, and Kentucky. He's banned for life with a felony conviction. In states like Florida, Alabama, Arizona, he won't be able to unless all of his fines, fees, and penalties are paid. And we haven't talked about the fines, fees, and penalties, but they're going to be substantial in a case like this. I know there is jail time associated with up to 4 years for every felony conviction, and that's not likely. But the fines, fees, and penalties associated with what's going to come from this verdict are real and will have full repercussions for Donald Trump personally. I think that's a real way to approach looking at what the consequences are going to be. That pre-sentencing report that's going to come out is going to be very telling in terms of what independent, objective agencies with parole are looking at in terms of the influence for the judges as he makes his sentencing. I'm looking forward to those arguments specifically from prosecutors about what they're asking for in the sentencing because of this conviction. And I will say, just to reiterate it, those consequences are real and absolute. Now, we all got here how we got here through a jury trial that Donald Trump and his representatives were able to participate in. And this is the actual consequence that Donald Trump has been found guilty. In spite of the appeal that I know is coming, there are some real consequences that I think we're going to see leading up to, as I had predicted in the past, that's going to overshadow his own campaign. And we're seeing that happen right now with the sentencing taking place right before the Republican convention. This is going to be at the forefront of the conversations, and that's before we have the consequence and the implications for the other cases that are still pending against the former president.
Yeah, okay, Paul, you raised some good points. And it's important, Danny, as I turn to you, the other lawyers.